What if the ground beneath your feet was quietly preparing for the most devastating earthquake in American history, and no one was ready? Scientists are apprehensive about the strange and scary series of earthquakes that have been happening in central Idaho over the past few weeks. This seismic event, called an earthquake swarm, is made up of more than 100 earthquakes, many of which can be picked up by seismological equipment. It is still going on and doesn't seem to be ending naturally. Usually, after an earthquake, the aftershocks get weaker, but this swarm is breaking expectations by staying strong and even getting stronger in some cases. A strange swarm of earthquakes. This swarm started with a magnitude 4.0 earthquake near the town of Stanley, Idaho. This was a big event on its own. However, the shocks have not stopped, as would normally be expected. Instead, they have been happening more often and with more force than usual. Geologists and seismologists are worried that the pressure below the Earth's surface is not going down, but rather building up, because of this ongoing earthquake activity that has never been seen in the area before. What's even scarier is that this swarm isn't happening along the well-known Sawtooth Fault, which is where the 6.5 magnitude earthquake in 2020 happened. Instead, the current earthquakes are coming from fault systems that haven't been found before. This suggests that our knowledge of the geology of the area may be dangerously lacking. How does a different type of fault move? One of the scarier things about the earthquake swarm is the kind of ground movement that is being tracked. Most of Idaho's past earthquakes were caused by vertical ground motion, which means the ground moved up or down. This swarm, on the other hand, is moving in a way called strike-slip motion, which means the Earth's crust is moving side to side. This kind of movement can store and release a lot more energy than vertical changes. It's also what causes the famous San Andreas Fault in California. Very strong earthquakes can happen on strike-slip faults because the horizontal shift lets more tectonic stress build up. This kind of movement in Idaho makes it seem like the area may be much more seismically active and dangerous than was thought before. Reminders of bad events in the past. What's most scary about this is how much it looks like the warning signs of other terrible earthquakes around the world. Before the 9.0 magnitude Tohoku earthquake in Japan in 2011, there were a lot of smaller ones in the area, just like the one happening now in Idaho. In the same way, there had been months of increased seismic activity before the 1906 San Francisco earthquake. The deadly earthquake sequence in central Italy in 2016 also started with several small tremors. In all of these examples from history, things that seemed like they wouldn't cause much harm turned out to be the start of big disasters. The current swarm in Idaho is showing the same symptoms. Activity that lasts longer and gets stronger without decreasing in frequency. This suggests that a lot of stress may be building up underground. New flaws and risks. Finding out that new unmapped lines are active in the area changes everything we thought we knew about the risk of earthquakes in central Idaho. Building codes, risk assessments, and emergency plans have all been built on the idea that known faults like the Sawtooth were the only major sources of earthquake danger. It's now clear that this assumption was wrong. These newly found cracks are showing complicated geological behavior with stress patterns that show how the ground is moving in a planned way. Geologists look for this kind of organized behavior to tell when bigger earthquakes are going to happen. The fact that it's happening in an area that hasn't been studied much makes it more likely that a big earthquake will happen without notice, with terrible effects. The infrastructure is in danger. The USGS's computer models show what could go wrong if a magnitude 7 or bigger earthquake hit central Idaho. The models show amounts of ground acceleration that are much higher than what most buildings in the area were built to handle. That means buildings, roads, and other infrastructure could fall down quickly and badly. Idaho's dams, like the Palisades Dam, which holds back more than 1.2 million acre-feet of water, are a very big problem. During a strong earthquake, the dam structure could be broken in minutes, letting a huge amount of water flow downstream. There could be a flood disaster worse than Hurricane Katrina because of this. The infrastructure for transportation is also at risk. A major route through the area, Highway 75, could be stopped by landslides. Also, Idaho's main east-west route, Interstate 84, goes over bridges that weren't built to handle such strong shaking. Because of these barriers, whole communities would be cut off from medical help, food, and rescue missions. A chain reaction of humanitarian needs. The timeline after a big earthquake shows a scary picture. Cell towers would likely fall, and power lines would go down within the first hour, making it impossible to communicate. Emergency workers wouldn't be able to get to the places that need help because the roads would be impassable, and hospitals that are already overloaded with patients could be damaged structurally. Things would go wrong by the third day. People in rural areas usually only keep enough food and fuel for a few days, so they would start to run out. Facilities that treat water could be hacked, which could cause public health problems. Damaged airports would make it impossible for helicopters to land, and cars on the ground would not be able to do their jobs without fuel or roads that worked. The economy would quickly fall apart after that. Idaho is an important part of transportation lines that go to and from the Pacific Northwest. There would be problems with rail and trucking lines, which would affect the flow of fuel, food, and manufactured goods from Seattle to Portland and beyond. Businesses wouldn't be able to move their stock or get ready for losses, which would make the long-term effects on the economy even worse. The link to Yellowstone. Geologists can't sleep at night because they think there might be a link between the Idaho swarm and the Yellowstone supervolcano. The two systems are not the same, but they are linked by a complicated web of fault lines and magma chambers below the ground. Data from the past shows that big earthquakes in central Idaho have sometimes happened before Yellowstone's energy and seismic activity sped up. This doesn't mean a supervolcano will explode soon, but even small changes in Yellowstone's underground systems could cause explosions, the release of toxic gases, or other dangerous events. The Idaho swarm is happening on geological paths that could send stress to the Yellowstone caldera, making it more likely that there will be more tragedies. More people are living in areas with a high risk. In a strange twist, more people are coming into the area just as the risk of earthquakes is rising. People moving to central Idaho to work from home and enjoy living outside have caused the population to grow quickly. A lot of newcomers have never been ready for an earthquake and don't know about the geological risks below their houses. The stakes are even higher now that more people are living in high-risk places. These towns' emergency reaction systems were never made to handle large-scale disasters. They are ready for small-scale emergencies and mountain rescues, but not for the broad damage that a big earthquake would cause. What does climate change mean for people? Climate change is worsening earthquake risks. Heavier rain increases landslides, and wildfires strip hillsides of stabilizing vegetation. Earthquakes in burned areas can trigger deadly debris flows. Meanwhile, central Idaho's outdated building codes and aging structures, many built before seismic standards existed, leave rural communities vulnerable, with no funds for retrofitting. A race against time. Local rescue services remain unprepared for a major earthquake. Damaged hospitals, roads, and communication could delay help for days. Each day of ongoing tremors is a chance to prepare. But without visible disaster, most people ignore the warning, unaware they're living above a ticking geological time bomb. If this video opened your eyes to what's happening beneath our feet, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell.